Welcome to MovieFile's 100 Movies in 100 Days. Today is day 9, I'll be reviewing the movie Animal House. The reason I decided to review this movie was because it was suggested to me by a friend of mine named Tony Mango. Tony, who's an executive producer of this show and also hosts Smarkoutmoment Smack Talk, which is usually every Saturday, but this week it was actually posted on Thursday. And he's also owner of the Mango Tree, so you should check out his networks, including Fanboys Anonymous, Out on Limbs, and other little sites that he's been actually working on as well. He's also a writer for the Bleacher Report and focuses on a lot of things, including wrestling. He suggested about this movie because we were talking about Ghostbusters, more specifically about Bill Murray Fortnite that's going to be happening from next week. And we were talking about one of the writers of this movie, who happened to be Egon Spengler, aka Howard Ramis. Ramis, who is a director, writer and actor himself, helped produce this script from a series of stories from National Lampoon's magazine. For those of you who don't know, National Lampoon started off as a magazine show, then a radio show, and then a series of feature-length comedy movies. Nowadays, they kind of sponsor a poker tournament with naked women.
Yeah. Yeah, baby! Yeah!
Not too shabby, National Lampoons. Not too shabby. But they always see things in a tongue-in-cheek perspective. All their movies were kind of parodies of everyday life. This movie was made in 1978 and it was directed by John Landis, and it also starred John Belushi. John Belushi was a regular on Saturday Night Live and also was actually going to be playing the part of Peter Venkman in the Ghostbusters movie, due to the fact that his dear friend Dan Aykroyd wrote the part for him. But after his death, which was by an overdose, the part went to Bill Murray. So we can talk a bit more about that when I actually review the movie Ghostbusters. So let's get on with the review. In 1962, college freshman Lawrence Larry Kroger, who's played by Tom Hulce, and Kent Dorfman, played by Stephen Furst, they seek to join a fraternity at Faber College. They visit the prestigious Omega Theta Pi, which they usually have their annual invitation party. It's actually quite funny because you see how these guys have got stiff upper lips and don't want anybody sort of talking to them. So every time Kent keeps going up to these guys, they keep putting him around with the misfits, the immigrants, the stereotypical nerds. And he tries to get in on the party and talk to these guys, but they keep just shoving him back. After feeling unwelcomed, they decide to go to a different party hosted by Delta Tau Chi, where Kent's brother was once a member, making Kent a legacy. They find John Bluto Blatowski, played by John Belushi, urinating outside the fraternity house, pissed as a fart. It's so funny with his character, he's always drunk. You see him, he's either drunk, he's either eating his face off, or getting into fights. That's the extent of Belushi's character. But nonetheless, he's so hilarious in this movie. Deltas need dues, so they permit Larry and Kent to pledge. They then receive the fraternity names Pinto and Flounder. Vernon Wormer, who's the dean of the college, decides that he wants to get these guys out, so he puts them on double secret probation. Where's double secret probation? I have never heard of double secret probation. Apparently it's bad. He wants to remove the fraternity out of campus because they're giving the place a bad name. They're just causing chaos, having violent fits of rage, throwing things everywhere, and the fraternity house looks like a shithole. He orders the Omega president, Greg Marmalade, find a way to get rid of the Deltas permanently. Flounder is bullied by Omega member and ROTC cadet Doug Needlemeyer, so they decide to cause a bit of trouble with the guy, including the fact that where they've had a situation where it caused his horse to keel over by firing a gun in the air, causing the horse to have a heart attack in the dean's office. Yep, there's a hilarious scene where he's talking to the mayor and the guy just comes in, he's just measuring the horse and then just pulls on the chainsaw ready to cut the horse into pieces while its legs are just protruding up in the air like that. It's hilarious. In the cafeteria the next day, smooth talking Eric Stratton tries to convince the stuck-up Mandy Pepperidge to abandon her boyfriend. Bluto then starts a food fight. Chip Diller, who's played by Kevin Bacon, there's an awesome scene where Bacon gets paddled in his arse and he starts screaming and asking for more.
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
I'm not even kidding you. Kevin Bacon gets paddled in this movie like a son of a bitch. Bluto and D-Day steal upcoming answers for a psychology test, and the Deltas have like loads of different events, including an obscene party where the dean's wife gets intoxicated and has sex with one of them. I'm not even kidding. And they're then taken to court and had their charter revoked, so they're no longer a fraternity. After having taken the notes from the test, which turns out to be wrong, they end up flunking. So to take their minds off their troubles, Otter, Boone, Flounder and Pinto decide to go on a bit of a road trip. They then end up in a soul bar with a bunch of girls, and then basically get their girlfriends taken, and a fight nearly starts. It's hilarious. Think of the times. Basically, it's the 60s where there's a big stereotype where all black guys are considered big, burly, and they'll beat the shit out. Boone breaks up with his girlfriend Kay after he finds out that she's sleeping with a professor who's played by Donald Sutherland. The Sutherland men, they always get the girls. It's, you know, it's because they're smooth. And Marmalade is told that his girlfriend is having an affair with Otter. So he and the other Omegas lead Otter into a room and proceed to beat the living shit out of it. They're then suspended from school and told by the dean that the draft boards have been notified that these guys are eligible to be drafted for the military. The reason being, again, it's a day and age where military was sort of forced. If you weren't going to university, if you weren't in college, if you weren't doing something else like an education, you're going to go and fight for your country. No ifs or buts about it. So they all look like they're going to give up, but Bluto, supported by Otter, decide, you know what? We're going to go for one last hurrah. We're going to cause chaos. And he has a huge funny speech where he literally goes on about the Germans bombing Pearl Harbor. I'm serious. They decide to basically get the revenge on Wormer and the Omegas by constructing a road parade float, causing extreme chaos. There's broken roads, there's destroyed cars, buildings are basically being smashed in, there's looting afoot, and the police are trying to arrest everybody and get them all like out of there. During the ensuing chaos, the futures of the guys are revealed as, you know, little tech sequences. Back in the day, this was sort of like a commonplace thing, especially in frat movies. And the last shot of the film is Bluto driving away with Mandy Pepperidge, who's his soon-to-be wife in the movie. Now, what can I say about this movie that already hasn't been said? It's a fun-filled frolic of a film, but it also has other movies that have come after it that pretty much signify the same thing. This is kind of the movie that started all the fraternity movies. You know, films like Porky's, for instance. And to a lesser extent, it was trying to be revived with movies like Van Wilder. Each character had their own part to play in the movie, and nobody was actually focused on too much. They focused on the fraternity as a whole, and collectively, the cast, or an all-star cast, mind you, did their parts well. It was very tongue-in-cheek. It was a full parody of what you get in a National Lampoon's movie, and really was an all-out laugh. Now, for that, I give this movie a 4. 1 being the worst and 5 being the best. A 4 is basically, it's a great time to watch this movie, and it's something that you can watch again, but it's not the highest level to be considered an amazing movie. A lot of it had to do with the writing. It was, if you cast anybody in these roles, it would have been the same deal. It didn't require much skill in terms of acting and comedy timing, but nonetheless it was a fun movie, especially for the time. And it's great to sit down and watch this movie and reminisce about actors like Kevin Bacon, John Belushi, and Donald Sutherland playing to a rather hilariously comedic movie. It's kind of a parody of the fraternity life itself. And it's also, you have scenes from this movie being used in other media, including The Simpsons. Toga, 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 2000! And there's a reason why I didn't decide to actually identify one actor as the clear winner in this movie, because not everybody stood out. This was an ensemble cast and everyone played their role rather genuinely, and thus giving the movie the score that I did. Now, if you haven't seen this movie, I suggest that you pick up a Blu-ray copy, which I believe has all the extra features of this movie and a few outtakes. And if you want to look at more of National Lampoon's, my suggestion is going for the Christmas Vacation, and also taking a look at Van Wilder, which takes National Lampoon's kind of to the next level. But stay away from the unofficial sequel, The Rise of Taj, because that's just, yeah. Carl Penn, you should be ashamed of yourself. That's pretty much it from me, guys. Stay tuned for day 10, where I'll be reviewing the movie The Internship. See you then.